Coming in at number 3 on our organizational value rankings, the 4th annual edition, it's Jake Sanderson.
Oh, man. Jake Sanderson, I think he has exceeded most people's expectations in his rookie season. And expectations were high, at least for Sens fans. And I think if you took a look at all the community online that, when the Sens drafted Jake Sanderson, they were like, yeah, that's a good pick, but that's a reach. Total reach. Shouldn't have gone with him at 5th. They should have gone with this guy, that guy, the other guy. Who cares? At this point, it's very clear all of those people have kind of taken back their words. And look at Scott Wheeler. He was one of them. And he had Timmy and Jake in his 2020 redraft as players 1 and 2.
Nothing wrong with that. Having Jake Sanderson on the team is just like we were on board before the 2020 draft. Hey, you need 2 forwards, got to score goals. Now the way the team's built, especially, like I can't imagine what they'd be like without Jake Sanderson and his steady presence, his elite speed, his agility, and his poise. That's really what it comes down to. At 20 years old, putting up 77 games, 32 points, was a -6, and only took 6 minor penalties in over 1,500 minutes of ice time. He's still signed for 1 more year at $925,000. And he's signed until 2031-32 now. The extension kicks in next year that will pay him $8.05 million. So we've obviously discussed Jake Sanderson quite a bit recently, the 6'3", 195-pound defenseman out of Montana, the first ever NHLer born in Montana. He's a late birthday for his draft year as well, just turned 21 in July. What does he have for an encore, Pilsy? What is Jake Sanderson going to do this season that you think will take him another step further in this rapid development?
Well, Ross, I actually don't think this season is going to be that much of a step up from last season. I think especially sophomore seasons can be so interesting. There's the famous term sophomore slump. I'm not suggesting that that's what's going to happen to Jake, but we've done the comparison with Miro Heiskanen a couple times. And if you look at his progression, his big jump, and I don't have his stats in front of me, but I think we talked about it. His big jump wasn't until year 3 and 4, maybe even year 4, Ross. Maybe you could pull that up for me if you got it. But I think the thing is, Jake Sanderson is all he really needs to do is, and we talked about this with a couple players, is run it back. That was a great season. A successful season and where Jake Sanderson is at his best is not on the stat sheet. And that's why I think fan bases, when they saw him get this 8x8 deal and he only had 4 goals last season, some of them they think they're dunking on Sens fans being like, wow, overpayment, blah, blah, blah. Cool. You can have that opinion. That's fine. You're uneducated, I'll say, if that's your opinion, because you haven't seen what Jake Sanderson does. It's that poise. It's his penalty killing. He led the team in time on ice shorthanded. He's someone that very rarely makes mistakes, and he's killing all these penalties, Ross, but he's not taken many of them. He only had 12 PIMs last season. So this is a guy that, as a rookie defenseman, one of the hardest things to do coming into the NHL from college, nonetheless, he was able to look like a stable vet out there. And I think this year, maybe you see a little uptick in points because he's probably going to get some more power play time just based on how well he quarterbacked that top power play unit when Chychrun and Chabot were gone. So I think that's going to earn him some more time there. But I don't know. I think maybe you'll see 10 extra points, but what we're really going to see is his improvement and his awareness, all these little things that you just simply need experience to get better at. We're going to see those things improve.
Something that really stands out to me is the trust that DJ Smith had in him immediately. Not only on the penalty kill, like you brought up, but he also started only 45% of his draws in the offensive zone. He was coming out there when they needed a defensive draw. Hey, let's go to the 20-year-old. The shutdown pair was him and Travis Hamonic, and now I'm excited to see him with a more high-end defenseman at this end of his career is how I'll state that. Whereas he's not going to be having to look over his shoulder and be like, okay, is Hamonic beaver tail passing right now, or trying to get the puck right now? It's just going to be, I think him and Zub is going to be a natural progression. Zub, I mean, he kind of is what Hamonic was maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe with a little less offense, like, a big right shot defenseman who can move the puck well and will help out. So I'm just super excited to see what's next. You said 10 extra points. That's the number I want to put on. I want to see a 40-point season from Jake Sanderson. Hey, the way he's talking, he knows how important offense from the back end is. And we saw it in North Dakota. First year, 15 points in 22 games, I believe it was. Yes. Then the second year, he goes out and has 26 points in 23 games. So he had 11-point improvement in one extra game. So with that, it's crazy. He only took 5 minor penalties in 45 games in college. So this whole thing of him not taking penalties, it's not new. And you have to be so agile and not get beat one-on-one, because that's where defensemen often take penalties, right? They get their stick in a bad position and get a tripping penalty, or they have to hook so that they don't look even worse by getting beat on and end up on the highlight reel the next morning. So, man, Jake Sanderson, smooth, poise, everything you want in a defenseman. And the fact that he signed for 9 years is laughable. It really is. When you look at the room to grow, almost played 22 minutes a game, Pilsy, last season. Like, I'd like that to stay the same. Basically, you're just saying, keep doing you, boo-boo. Just do exactly what you're doing.
That's pretty much what I'm saying, because his season, I mean, you don't get an 8x8 contract after one season if it's not an incredible year, and if it's not showing signs of growth and potential that, honestly, like we mentioned before, I think by the time his contract kicks in, so not this year, next year, it'll be a steal of a deal. And I think Sens fans are all pretty comfortable in saying that as well. And the reason is, and I mentioned this before, is when Chychrun and Chabot were out. So I took a look at his sample size from March 14th to the end of the season, 16-game sample size. He was averaging...
Is that when Chabot and Chychrun were out?
I didn't do it exactly when they got injured, but that's around the time period. So I just chose a 16-game sample size. He was averaging over 25 minutes a night, and going up against other teams' top players. And he did not seem out of place. If anything, it made us all look at him and be like, wow, like, he's even more ready than we thought. Like, he was not overwhelmed whatsoever.
He really wasn't. Like, I feel like we're just kind of rehashing the same things, because we just obviously went through Jake Sanderson when he signed that contract, but I could never get tired of talking about this guy. I just want to see him play hockey again, right? Because we only have that small sample size right now of 77 games, but just knowing that his mindset is that he believes that there's more offense to his game, that's going to be my most curious moment of this season. Like, there was that one goal he scored. I forget exactly who it was against, but where he just middle lane drive. And if he wants to pinch in a little bit more often, maybe he'll feel more comfortable if Artem Zub's his partner and more of a defensive minded guy than Hamonic, who I think kind of like has a mirage as a defensive minded guy. He's great on the PK. Maybe that's where he gets that reputation from. But Hamonic's like an offensive defenseman at the end of the day. I mean, you look at it, he's always trying to get pucks on net. He's always trying to, be in offensive situations with the puck on his stick. I think Sanderson's going to do even better when he's the guy who always has the puck on his stick. And the skating ability is just going to lead him to great places. So Jake Sanderson comes in at number 3 on our organizational value rankings. Where was he to start? Well, after the draft in 2020, we had him at number 4. Then we had him at number 4 again after 2021. Pilsy, we had him down 3 spots, all the way down at number 7 in our last year's list. And I think a big part of that was, not wanting to put too much pressure on him being a rookie in the National Hockey League. But now he's back up 4 spots up to number 3, Jake Sanderson. Any final thoughts on Sandy before we move on?
I think he's poised to have a really big season here. And I mentioned I don't think it's going to be a huge uptick just because it's sophomore season and it takes time to have that major uptick when his floor is already so high. But I really think we're going to see the skating become a big part of why he's successful. We're going to see him put more pucks on net from the point. And like you mentioned, I think we're going to see him pinch a lot more. And the thing with Sanderson pinching is he's such a good skater that even if he does get caught in a bad pinch, I don't think it fully takes him out of the play. He's able to catch up to a lot of guys. So I'm so excited for Jake Sanderson. Thank goodness he signed. That's another player we don't have to be nervous about not signing. So let's just have 9 more years of Jake Sanderson. Sign me up.
Let us know in the comments what you think of the Senators' perennial number 1 defenseman. He's first defenseman on our list here. Jake Sanderson comes in at number 3 on the organizational value rankings.